Hello and welcome to this fifth day of the countdown to the resurrection. The resurrection is coming. Are we ready for it? Are we prepared for it? Jesus and the disciples were getting ready for the weekend in a way that perhaps we would never think of. Well, they were going to have a Passover meal. And so the table would be set, they would be ready for the Passover with all kinds of wonderful things that they would be eating together. But before they got to that point of eating, as they came into the home, maybe you would hear a sound like this, the sound of water. Yeah, water. Why? Because it was part of the Eastern hospitality. They would make sure your feet were washed. Now, we find that a bit strange in our culture. Washing the feet, no. And we would be a bit reluctant for someone to wash the feet. But if you lived in that part of the world, if you've lived in the Middle East, you know how important it is. It's just as important as giving somebody a cup of tea as they come in. Hospitality. It's a way of being able to make sure your guests are comfortable, because you didn't have to walk very far before your feet were all kind of dusty. So you want to make sure your guests are at home. You wash their feet and prepare for what lies ahead. And you know, for us today, there is a symbolism perhaps, even though it's got a practical background, it's a symbolism of this very act, because just as the feet need to be cleaned, so our hearts need to be prepared. Jesus is going to be doing the most important bit. He's going to die on the cross of Calvary. Not far away now. He's going to die on the cross of Calvary. But our hearts are never going to know what it is to have cleansing, just as the feet were washed, to have our heart cleansed by what Jesus is doing for us, to make us different, to make us better, to make us renewed in a way that only the Son of God could ever do. And tomorrow's Good Friday. And I wonder what's happening then. Have you ever gone to a Passover meal? And, you know, within that Passover meal, one of the things that they would say to each other is, next year, Jerusalem. Next year, Jerusalem. And that's kind of a reflection of the history of the Jews, how they had gone into exile in Babylon. And so there was that hope. One day, the temple will be where they would be. The temple would be rebuilt for them next year. But we've got something even better. Because of Jesus dying on the cross, we can look forward not only to next year, but today, to know that God will cleanse the temple of our lives when we let him, when we allow him, when we give ourselves wholly unto him.